By the time of the 2018 governor's race, Florida had trended Republican for a few decades, but after being shut out of the governor's mansion for 20 years, Florida Democrats finally had all the excitement in the world behind their backs. In our next installment of Red, Purple, and Blue, a sea change in Florida politics, I dive into the closest governor's race in Florida's history and the Democratic resurgence that wasn't to be. In 2018, President Donald Trump's approval ratings were underwater. Democrats were crushing Republicans nationwide in polling. And in Florida, a surprise candidate who rarely polled in first, endorsed by Democratic Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders, defeated several other Democrats to win the Democratic nomination for governor. He was Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, and Gillum would run against former Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis, who defeated Florida's Commissioner of Agriculture Adam Putnam after DeSantis received a big endorsement from Trump. Now, DeSantis tied his campaign to Trump, touting his endorsement and running a conservative campaign.
He ran commercials 2 months ago. Impeach Trump on his commercials.
He will lead the effort to worship at the feet of Donald Trump.
With Gillum being endorsed by Sanders and DeSantis' Trump endorsement, Gillum versus DeSantis was arguably a proxy battle for the 2016 election that never happened, Sanders versus Trump. Both Sanders and Trump in 2016 attracted the non-college educated white voters who helped Trump win Florida that year. And Florida didn't change much since that election.
The party registration numbers didn't change a great deal between 14 and 18.
Gillum ran a progressive campaign calling for a Medicare for All system of health care in America.
If you are a cancer patient, a patient with diabetes, sickle cell, if you are a pregnant woman in the state of Florida, Mr. DeSantis will have allowed for your health care to be taken from you. That is a fact.
Anybody with pre-existing conditions, if that falls through the cracks in Florida, we'll stand by you.
Two issues affecting both men exploded during the campaign. For Gillum, it was corruption charges in Tallahassee. There was late campaign news of controversial Hamilton tickets he received unknowingly from an undercover FBI agent. For DeSantis, it was race, especially when one of his donors called Obama a racist term, yet the DeSantis campaign did not return the donor's money.
I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
I mean, how the hell am I supposed to know every single statement somebody makes?
Polling was strong for Gillum until the end. But it was DeSantis who did just a little bit better than what he was polling, winning the governor's race against Gillum 49.6% to 49.2%.
In the closest margin of any governor's race in Florida history.
Gillum did have Florida Democrats' best showing for governor since Governor Childs' re-election in 1994. But DeSantis was helped by strong numbers in similar areas that Trump won in 2016.
Florida's got a bunch of retirees, and they have a bunch of, thinking back to the old Reagan Blue Dog Democrats, that white working class.
And with then Governor Rick Scott defeating incumbent Democratic Senator Bill Nelson that same year, Democrats were almost shut out of all statewide offices for the first time. But Democrat Nikki Fried won her race for Florida Commissioner of Agriculture. Democrats still had one voice statewide. And while Scott and DeSantis both barely won their elections, they did it in a big blue wave election year, with Democrats winning more than 40 seats in the U.S. House and also flipping 7 governor's mansions from Republican hands. Despite the strong Republican results in Florida, issues Democrats supported were winning.
Every single ballot initiative, a majority of which are what I call progressive in nature, moving the ball forward, whether it's the restoration of civil rights, whether it is a $15 minimum wage, medical marijuana, all are passing by over 60 to 70%, which shows me that the state of affairs when it comes to what the voters want, what the voters' issues are, that they are aligned with that of the principles of the Democratic Party.
So then what went wrong for Democrats and right for Republicans? There were some signs. Democrats had a 444,000 voter registration advantage in 2014 when they lost. That was cut down to 257,000 by 2018. But that dent in the Democrats' voter advantage was the tip of the iceberg. 2018's historically close election ended up being a wake-up call for Republicans.
To make sure we fine-tune our ground games, our voter outreach, voter registration.
When Ron DeSantis began his first term as governor, he was not pushing the kind of bills getting national attention. He had announced water policy reforms, Everglades restoration, and a blue-green algae task force. But Florida was about to see some major changes within the next 4 years.
Rick Scott took some big jumps, and Ron DeSantis told him that, hey, hold my beer. I'm really gonna do some stuff.
Even before Ron DeSantis became governor, we've shown you during this series how more power was being given to the governor's office. That would be supercharged under a Governor DeSantis. In part 10 of Red, Purple, Blue, A Sea Change in Florida Politics, we look at DeSantis' response to the COVID pandemic and the actions taken which expanded the power a Florida governor has. That's next week at 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. here on SNN. You can also catch all episodes you missed on SNNTV.com. Just hover over news at the top of the page and click Politics.